You've probably heard or been told the phrase in your life, "You are not alone." But what does that mean? Is it that there are people here to help you? Well, that could be one meaning, but a few years ago, I encountered a much more important meaning of that phrase, and I'm going to share that with you today. That other meaning has gained importance for me as time goes on because friends and family will tell you that they're there for you, but when you reach out to them, either what you've got is too heavy for them to handle, or it's not heavy enough, so they think that it isn't serious. And that is the predicament that we're in when it comes to leaning on friends and family for support. When I've reached out to some people who have told me I could come to them for anything, their reaction to what I have to say has never made me feel more alone. Everyone tells you that when you don't want to be here on Earth anymore, you have to reach out to your friends and family for support. You know what's happened to me when I've done that? People say, well, you need to seek professional help. Like, yeah. What do you think I've been doing for 6 years? Like, bless your heart, you think I'm here twiddling my thumbs, listening to heavy metal and putting on eyeliner? And please don't get me wrong, because I actually understand their reactions. It's very human. People have their own stuff to deal with. They want to help you, but they just can't, or they don't know how to help you. But I just wish that we could stop the second biggest lie in the world, which is, I'm here for you. And if you have someone in your life who has said that and actually followed through on that, then you have found a gem of a human. So well done to both of you. Another upsetting reaction that I've got to opening up is ghosting. Seriously, ghosting from people who have said that I could come to them for anything. And again, I get it. It's hard to be there for people. And while I do have empathy for those people, I'll never trust them again. And I've isolated myself so badly that now I have almost no one. And that's a huge issue for people with C-PTSD, and something that I'll make sure to cover in other videos. But your therapist can't fix everything. Yes, it's good to seek professional help, but as humans, we need community. But most humans aren't equipped now with the tools or the knowledge of what the appropriate response is when someone comes to you and says they don't want to be here anymore. It's definitely not a one and done kind of conversation or text message or phone call. If you really want to help, you check in on them. You know how much that means? Just a quick check-in. It doesn't have to be daily. It could even be monthly. And it matters so much, especially for the person who has a hard time reaching out, a hard time trusting other people. Anyways, we can talk about what the proper reaction is in another video, but this video is about that phrase, "You are not alone." When that phrase is used to suggest there are people here to support you, it loses all significance to me for all the reasons that I just listed. But when this phrase is used to suggest there are people here like you, that is when it hits home. So I can illustrate this with something that happened to me a few years ago. A while back, I used to attend group therapy for people who had sexual trauma from childhood. And it was very likely that every person in the room had complex PTSD. But whether you had the formal diagnosis or not, you still were welcome at the group. Group therapy never appealed to me. I didn't think that I'd be comfortable opening up to strangers. I was 28 at the time, but for the first 2 sessions, I just did the grumpy teenager thing and sat back with my arms crossed, you can't make me talk. No one tried to make me talk. And we had this handbook to follow along with. This one here. And there's this page in here of common symptoms experienced. There it is. There's symptoms. It's pretty long. And the facilitator said that we were going to go down the list one by one. And if you felt comfortable, you could raise your hand if you experienced that symptom. So starting with the first one, which is a big one, depression and anxiety. everyone in the room raised their hand, even the facilitators. And there's probably like 12 people or so in the room. Next one, self-blame and shame. Again, every hand. Next was inability to trust. All hands. Difficulty forming and maintaining healthy relationships. Everyone. Fear of intimacy, anger and rage, difficulty sleeping, self-destructive behaviors. Every hand going up every time. This one was an interesting revelation to a lot of people. Easily startled. Now, I'm easily startled, and people in my past have actually thought it was very funny to try and scare me because of how easy it is to do and how big my reaction is. But it turns out that it actually could be a symptom of my PTSD. Very rarely in this group exercise did, one or two people not raise their hand for a symptom. It definitely did happen, but it was pretty rare. For the most part, everyone in the room experienced almost all of these symptoms. And I actually felt like I wasn't alone for the first time ever, because everyone in that room experienced the same thing that I did. And we all have different stories of what happened to us, and there are nuances and there are differences, of course, but that we all shared these common threads was really impactful. That phrase, "you are not alone," it took on a whole new meaning. And I've gone to many therapists. I've probably had almost a dozen different therapists. And you can always tell when they get it and when they don't. Some therapists know what you're going through because they read it in a textbook, whereas others have lived it and they've gone through it. And for the ones who have never gone through it, I'm sorry, but we can always sniff you out. Always. Every time I've seen a therapist who hasn't been through it, I've never made any progress. Because how can you trust someone who hasn't been through it? The answer to that when you have C-PTSD is you can't. And I'm not saying that those 12 people in the group therapy that have all the same symptoms that I do, that this suddenly means that I trust them with my life or with all my deepest, darkest secrets. No, not at all. But that moment, I realized what it means to be not alone. That there were people out there who knew what it was like and who knew how painful every day is. And that was a really important discovery. If you're interested in the rest of the symptoms, I'll put the list at the end of this video. Honestly, there were many moments in group therapy where I felt truly understood and not alone. People would say things and it was like they were reading from my brain, things I had never told anyone. And my jaw would drop like, are you serious? I can't believe you just said that. Like you felt that or thought that too. I was going to take that to my grave, but then you just up and said it. And that would give me the courage to say things that would have a similar impact to other people in the room. Group therapy didn't fix all my problems, but it did fix my self-blame. Fixed it completely. I went in there blaming myself for what happened. And at the end of the 16 weeks, I knew without a doubt that it wasn't my fault at all. I don't think there's a single answer or a single way to fix depression, anxiety, complex PTSD. I think it takes a lot of things to fix it. And that's why I changed the name of this channel to Healing the Hard Way, because I've looked for an easy answer and it doesn't exist. Anyone who tries to sell you an easy answer is selling snake oil. That means they're lying. I believe that there are many levels to this, and it takes different sources to unlock the different levels. And each source may unlock something else and get you a little bit closer, but there will not be a magic moment when you're suddenly cured. And if there were, I think that would really mess up your psyche, because these neural wirings happen slowly. If you were to dismantle them all at once, I feel like that would be really bad. There's this quote I read that was, "Truth, like love and sleep, resents approaches too intense." And I think that that applies perfectly to healing. If you are struggling with your mental health, consider group therapy, even if you think that you never do it. I thought that too, and it It was one of the keys that unlocked something for me. And if you have gone through group therapy, you can let others know in the comments what your experience was like and if you recommend it or not. And remember that this journey is slow and it's not easy. And you're gonna have to try a lot of different things. Just because you found one thing that unlocks one level, that doesn't mean you're done. You gotta keep finding more keys. But you're not alone. For the next video, I was thinking of shifting focus to relationships, so keep an eye out for that. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.